Bitcoin Liberty Live. We're back every week.
Yeah, somehow or another.
Here at Liberty Tap Works. Poured our free beer here.
Yeah, well,
you got coffee.
I got a shit coffee from a place that wouldn't brew a new pot of coffee because their policy forbade it.
They make Americano, but can't do drip.
Americano is not a coffee. Americano is watered down espresso. Fuck watered down.
If it's got caffeine and it's dark, I will drink it.
I am. I'm with you on that 100%. I would just say every time I walk into a place and they go, "Oh, we can't make any brewed coffee right now," I go, "Fuck off."
Can't make brewed coffee. You have grounds and water.
Well, she said we're out of coffee, and I said, "You guys are out of like coffee grinds." Oh no, they just told me I can't make brewed coffee after 12 o'clock.
It's just the espresso machine at that point.
How about if I give you $20 and I'll pay for the 4 cups of coffee you would have brewed otherwise, and then you brew a new pot of coffee? I'll just take the 1 cup. You can pour the rest out. I don't give a shit. I just don't want an Americano.
Yeah. Make a pot. Give me a cup.
Are we going to upload a Rumble this week?
I'm going to put this stuff on Rumble. I've been just, you know what it is? It's like I get a video. I have it all done, ready. And then sort of like, what's easy? I find YouTube so easy. I mean, just the interface is nice. I really like it. And then our last weekend, you mentioned the C word for like 45 seconds. Really,
see you next Tuesday.
See you next Tuesday.
No, not that C word, but
the current thing, whatever the current thing is that is banned or violates community guidelines, it's just the current thing, and it's a moving target. But we uploaded a video. Within 5 minutes, it was up, and their robot AI screening thing said, "We've shut this down to
wrong thing,
violation of community guidelines." And I was just flummoxed. I'm like, what? Is it Bitcoin? Is it something else? And it said, no. At 7 minutes and like 28 seconds, it's a thing.
You said the C word and then the I word.
So I had to look at their policy, and then I deciphered what was the problem. So then I cut out like 45 seconds of our video where you referred to an RFK Jr. speech and the fact that
he had said something about
he had said something about follow the money, folks, and
wrong thing.
So not just like some people expressed opinions about a thing that happened years ago. Banned. Just nope.
Yeah, they dropped a little ban hammer.
This content has been permanently removed. Okay, so I did what Tucker Carlson had done before, where like he and Dave Smith were talking about a wide range of things, and then periodically the C word came up, and they cut out a section and said, YouTube will not allow us to talk about this topic here.
Redacted.
And so they just redacted it, say, we'll get back to your normal scheduled content here. That passed muster, so it stayed on YouTube after that. But anyway.
This thought is redacted.
So certain thoughts, not no-go zones, censorship going on. So here in America, I was like, well, I want to get this up. My thought is, I have a video done, and then it's like, okay, I can get it on Twitter's been fine. I just put it on Twitter, no problem.
Yeah.
YouTube, I'm always kind of like, they're looking for stuff, and it could just get randomly popped. Rumble seems to be
fighting the fight.
Open.
We'll see. I don't know.
And it's really just a matter of me going, okay, I got to upload it like 3 times or 4 times or wherever I'm going. We got banned on TikTok, so I may try again. But
right, we just got fucking banned.
I had to create a separate new email account and an account on TikTok to like try again. But sometimes I don't feel like I have the time to say, okay, I'm going to upload it here and add a title and description. Okay, now I'm going to upload it here, title, description.
You should just change the name of the channel to Satoshi's Friends.
We're Satoshi's friends. we're not a militia.
Friends, everybody. We're not a goddamn militia.
We're not recommending any sedition or revolution.
No, I recommend sedition and revolution. I don't. Maybe that'll get us ban hammered. I don't know. I'm not promoting anything. I promise you.
We do not condone violence.
That was called parody, or no, it's not even parody. It's just comedy.
Comedy?
Probably not very funny, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's not funny, surreal observance of reality, which is comedy at this point.
Yeah, well, the whole thing is comical.
It's all comical. Anyway, I'm sort of like acutely. I got really sort of pissed off and cynical last weekend after the ban. I was like, wow, yeah, I kind of hadn't dealt with that before.
Oh yeah.
So then it's like, okay, careful about. Did you see that?
Yeah,
sorry, distracted. We have a window in front of us, so
yeah. Sometimes interesting people walk.
People walk by and we see things.
She was very interesting. She looked like she had a great personality.
Good personalities. I just got really aware of the potential censorship and censorship that occurs. Hasn't been occurring for years now, but keywords to not mention, topics to not like broach, or I don't know. It's a moving target. I don't always know where it is. I guess we find out. And on YouTube, Google, it's just very like, oh no, there are zones of discussion that are not approved unless it's the mainstream established narrative.
Right.
So
the mainstream established narrative set by industry players.
Follow the money.
Follow the money.
Follow the money, basically.
It's not rocket surgery.
Yeah.
The thing is, what they said though was that we were promoting some sort of thing. I go, I wasn't promoting that. I was just
false medical information, which is like there were no recommendations here. We're just saying.
I think I had just made some statement that said, "Hey, RFK said." I can't even remember what I said, but
RFK made a speech about the C word and alternative options for people's personal health.
Yeah, well, not even that. I think he just said, "Hey, the evidence is pretty clear now that there was something that could have been done that was different than what was done." But I mean, like, whatever. I don't want to get banhammered again just for no fucking reason. Like, 10 people watch this. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah, who cares?
Come on, man. And the people that watch this probably don't give a shit what we have to say about things anyway. So whatever. Right. You never know, right?
Not financial advice, not medical advice. Two idiots bantering about lots of nothings here. So
yeah,
enjoy, folks, if we're not banned.
Yeah.
But
we just upload to Rumble. Like, I don't, the thing is you can get deplatformed from anything, man. Like,
I suppose.
Ages back, long before people were doing, like social, SEO, the engagement optimization stuff, or the algorithm optimization stuff.
Like working the algorithm for...
Yeah, well, the thing was I was doing that like early 2000s, right? And I was selling like digital books and shit like this, and I managed to get keywords ranked in Google, so I was like on page 2 of the natural native search, right? And that was huge because I started, this little ding-dong book I was selling for like acting lessons or some shit like that was moving probably, 50, 100 copies a month kind of thing. I was doing all right, and for a self-published guy at the time, this was right at the beginning of when Amazon started buying up all those like on-demand publishers and things like that. So I was like one of the first few million out of the gate trying to do that kind of, digital marketing bullshit fucking stuff that everybody does these days.
Well, and you hustle for, the algorithm.
But I hustled the algorithm. I got it to a point where I was, doing pretty good. And then one month my sales just went, whoop, and I went, whoop, hey, I was getting kind of used to making an extra $300 or $400 a month. What became of my... And then I went and dug around a little bit, and they go, oh, yeah, big algorithm change for Google search. And that was when they started optimizing for corporate results, because that's where the money is. They don't give a shit about getting you valid information. They give a shit about you getting, the kind of information that's going to help make them more money.
Routing views towards where the money is.
Right. So they basically broke their fucking algorithm right there, because now Google search just sucks.
Google is a garbage.
It's just fucking trash, man. You cannot find shit, because they've just nerfed the hell out of their search algorithm, but there's nothing else better. I mean, like, I was using DuckDuckGo, that thing's a piece of shit. I was using Brave Search, complete piece of shit. Like, you end up with just results where you're just like, what the fuck?
Well, you have to go through and feel like, okay, I have to think about this? Come on. Where's my...
So that original PageRank thing was pretty revolutionary back in the day, but nowadays, like, I don't even know how search is going to live after you've got the LLMs coming online. You just go ask them, hey, what the fuck is this? And they go, here's the answer. You go, oh, that's better. Thank you.
Even as I don't completely trust things like ChatGPT, I feel like at least I can toss a question out there and it just gives me a concise something that I can go with.
Right. And that's a fucked up thing about ChatGPT and stuff like that. Like, I had it doing my bibliography, and like, I have some YouTube links in my bibliography, and it would just make up a fucking title. Like, you know, like one of them said, like, hey, the developmental economics of sub-Saharan Africa. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? It's a Michael Saylor clip talking about we call them poor. Like, how is that? What the fuck? It's like, oh, well, we just, you know, kind of went along with all the other shit you were talking about, so we just plugged it in. Said, hey, man, that was wrong. Like, this thing is this clip. Oh, sorry about that. Here's the new title with the information you fed me. I'm like, but how did you? It's right in the fucking, like, oh, you can't. Oh, it's just beep boop.
It's kind of goofy.
It's a trash heap. It's all a trash heap. Everything is a trash heap.
Yeah, it takes human deciphering of reality to, you know. Yeah, don't trust, verify. Basically, you got to constantly verify.
And don't trust your verification because you're probably wrong anyway.
So in the video that I edited to make stick on YouTube, which, you know, we should really get this on Rumble as well, which I've been just...
Not should.
We're going to put this on Rumble now because...
Rumble should be the primary platform that we're using at all times because YouTube is just YouTube. I mean, if you want to make a dancing fucking potato chip bag video, then make dancing potato chip bag videos. If you want to do stuff about, like, fucking nonsense diet tips, I don't know. I mean, the amount of shit information that floats around that platform... And they just pick and choose, like, you know, whatever the state is clamping down on at that moment. But
the current thing is like the word, like it's the current thing.
It's not even the current thing, and it's like that whole, you know, like the memory hole is so deep, and people are so wrapped up in just algorithmic thinking now. Like, there's Chris Williamson, you know that guy, like some British sounding dude. He does a podcast, pretty popular podcast. I've never heard of the guy, but he had like 2.6 million views. But he had some Eric something or another. It was a pretty cool clip. One of the Bitcoiners and Bitcoin Twitter reposted, said, hey, this guy just described the Matrix to me in, you know, 15-minute little clip. I watched it, and I was like, oh, this guy's pretty fascinating. I'm going to go watch this dude. And watching him kind of work through a problem, I was like, oh, thank God there's actually someone thinking about things out there. But they all kind of touched on a lot of this stuff, just like the guy said, and I've said repeatedly, and literally no one gives a fuck. I go, we don't have a president right now. And everyone's just like, yeah. So did you see Taylor Swift? She might vote for Trump this year. Huh? And it's like, we don't have a fucking president, people. Like, is that not? Nobody gives a shit.
What is
and the guy that was saying this, like, I said that to my brother-in-law when I was visiting in Seattle, and he said, well, what does that mean? I mean, he's just like a lame duck like everyone else. I'm like, no, he's not. It was a fucking coup, man. Oh, well, you know, but he's like sort of deep blue kind of tech dude, so.
My view on that, though, is it's sort of like no one's on the steering wheel. The thing is, though, the mascot of a football team is not doing anything but kind of chanting.
The president is not a mascot, though. That's the point.
Well, it's like
the president is supposed to be the coach.
Supposed to. And I feel like for a long time now, the president is told to show up and read off the script, and they're not the ones guiding much. It's this deep state.
Well, the point the guy was making, I wish I could remember his name because he's a really fascinating guy. He's a physicist, deep thinker, super articulate guy. But he said, look, there's two parts of democracy. Like, A, there's the World War II, post-World War II world that we've created that has these power structures in place in a general effort to try and keep the peace worldwide, right? That cannot be subject to what the plebs want every 4 years. You cannot build those kind of treaties and those sort of institutions, having a bunch of populists coming up every 4 years going, hey, we want fucking free cars, you know, because that's what...
More free stuff. So you get a new president. Oh, sorry, all that, but...
Right. So they could not run the world order that way.
No.
But that world order came from a great big fucking catastrophe, right? Like World War II was not a trivial event. It was the first time nukes were used in anger. The entirety of Europe was leveled, and fucking Jews got slaughtered. Like the whole thing was a goddamn nightmare. Like hundreds of millions of people died.
Yeah, it's hard to describe. I mean,
right. So the structures they built around that, but his point is like there is a democracy that says, hey, when you guys start tinkering with stuff, you're messing with load-bearing walls. Like you cannot be. When this wall comes down, all sorts of other bad shit can manifest, and you guys don't know what you're fucking with, and so we can't trust you to just do whatever the fuck you want because you feel like you need to be freedom bunnies or whatever. But then there's the other side, the sort of factual, like, hey, we have a say in our governance, and we're sovereign, and we're, you know, autonomous. And, no, not really. But there's that conflict between the two. His point is like the State Department, the FBI, all these people need to come out and just go, hey, there's a reason we're doing things this way, because if you start fucking with this, it's going to break way more shit than you can see right now.
Right.
And you don't understand just how fragile that system is, which I agree with 100%. And I also think that there is merit to, having the plebs having a say in some of this stuff, because some of those ideas they come up with where they feel very cemented in their idea that this is how the world order has to be isn't necessarily so.
So the person getting elected by people, they're running on,
populist
social
nonsense.
topics
Right.
that are of popular interest. Then they get elected. You get elected on these promises and storytelling things. You get elected, and then the deep state informs you what the hell's actually going on. You're like, oh, so I can't just audit the Federal Reserve, or I can't just do stuff I thought I was going to do because it all made sense for the people.
Right.
And they're like, no. In fact, we cannot do this for this reason, or do you want to start a war here? Or if we pull out here, all this will happen that nobody knows about.
Right.
And then you're like, okay, and you settle into, I guess we'll just keep waging the wars we're running.
Well, that's the problem. Is some of that shit, like I said, just because that's like the guy's point was all the architects of this modern system are dead. So no one alive right now knows exactly what they were trying to build or why, and all this shit they built was in secret. And they didn't just pass that down in a fucking playbook. So people are just working with the system that they were inherited, but they don't necessarily know what levers they're tugging on either, right? Mm-hmm. So, but his point was with the popular president thing, historically what would happen is you'd have the two sides, quote unquote. They would each have like a underdog candidate. That person would just get shunted off, but they knew it right out of the gate. Like, there's zero chance this guy's going to rise. There's zero chance this gal's going to rise. But we'll let them act like you have a choice. Mm-hmm. And then we'll put our two, state party line candidates up. And then you can just choose which flavor of party line candidate you want. But they're both going to support the world order.
Yeah, you're not changing the world here, folks. The fix is in.
Right. And so his point about Trump was like, that guy broke all those models, and they just went, oh, fuck. Oh, we can't have this. Mm-hmm. And, and despite all their best efforts, that guy still got into office. I still think he's a potato, but
earlier this week, so Trump was on Lex Friedman's podcast, which I watched, just fearing, Trump gets into these just kind of railroad trains of thought, which he'll talk about immigration and the border and kind of economics, but Friedman did ask him, so if you get elected, would you release the Epstein client list?
Huh.
And Trump says, oh, that'd be, yes, I'd really like to do that. It's very important, very interesting.
Waffle.
If I can, it's very complicated. There's a lot of things we don't know. And it's kind of like, it was this non-answer.
Right.
Then he follows up with the JFK assassination. When you were in office last time, you released some things, but would you release the full JFK investigation information? Again, Trump's like,
waffle,
like, really important topic. We really should. I would like, almost kind of like, I would like to, and we should do that. And there's a lot of things we don't know. It's a very hard thing. Kind of like, no, we're not getting shit. No. So even with Trump, it's like, oh my God, he's going to break all models, oh my gosh, he's kind of like a bull in a china shop here. He gets in. He cannot do a lot.
Well, he can. He could. It's just, will he? And he won't.
Or you try and.
But it's just like a little kid will come up to you and say, like, how come we can't just do? And you go, there's about 1,000 reasons. None of them you're going to understand. So the answer is no, right? But that's the voting populace writ large. Like, they are essentially children in the world that just have no fucking clue how any of this shit works, why it's still standing, and what went into making it. So they'll say stupid shit like, we just need to smash it all and start over. And you go, you're a fucking idiot, dude. You have no idea what that looks like. We just need to, get rid of the Federal Reserve. You have no fucking idea what that does. To the knock-on effects from that are so far-reaching. It's you know not what you ask on any level.
Right.
But people really like certitude. People really like saying, we just need to do this and that'll fix everything. And I guarantee this will be the fix that we need. That's how strongmen get into power, because people just go, oh, he's actually answering the question. He's saying what I think. How come we have to pay taxes? And it's like, well, dude, you don't understand what happens in the absence of that. Yeah, I get the philosophical ideas about all this stuff. And there's the practical reality of what that does to the rest of everything else. And, people are very spoiled by the modern world and the comforts that we all enjoy.
Yeah.
But that's come at a significant human toll for most people. So,
yeah, I think we feel like this just kind of occurs naturally, and really what it's occurred because of a lot of propped up systems that are also criminal behind the scenes. And
well, potentially. I mean, that's the same problem, is you just define what a criminal is and you can't do it. Because there is no universal for this stuff. So
when I re-uploaded our last podcast, cut out like 45 seconds of the current thing, and it stuck and it was okay. I took a cue from what Tucker Carlson had done when he had a conversation with Dave Smith, and they mentioned the current thing, and then because it was banned, they replaced that with just we could not talk about the current thing because it got banned. So, we're just letting you know this part is gapped out. Right. I did that, and it made me check. Tucker Carlson had an interview recently with the historian who does the Martyr Made podcast.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name. I'm so bad.
Isn't it?
No, it's anyway, something else.
Martyr
Made podcast. Check it out. Spotify, a lot of places. Both of us, I think, we went to his site, and I checked out, what's his podcast about? Because he talked about Jim Jones and a lot of cool, interesting history, modern stuff, and deep dives on cool info that I love that stuff. I randomly found a video that he did a deep dive on about a year ago, nine months ago, on Epstein. Check out his Epstein talk. And that's when I listened to that 5.5 hours of a deep dive on not just Epstein, but kind of what was Epstein, but kind of what we see as a front of this deep, long-time, pervasive power play on human psyche stuff revolving around sex and blackmail, power and control structures. Yeah, okay, Israel, but everywhere. Belgium.
You said another I word, dude. You better be careful. We'll get the ban hammer again.
I know. We're going to get banned for mentioning Rumble.
Yeah, probably.
Maybe.
I don't know.
The word Rumble may be a word they don't like.
It's racist.
I don't know. Anyway, deep dive on Epstein, and it's not just Epstein. Epstein was like a guy. He was a frontline player they just kind of promoted to play a role. But where did he come from? What were his credentials? What?
The failed math teacher?
Yeah. Failed math teacher, placed in that position, popped and placed at Bear Stearns, popped and placed in, can't talk about it,
the world of finance.
Suddenly, some of the most wealthy people in the world giving up power of attorney to this guy over blackmail.
Yeah, well, it's not quote unquote blackmail. He's just 100% blackmailing people.
It's like, just
fucking obvious. Anyone that's working in a prison can recognize this hustle.
Robert Maxwell, deep stater, British citizen, Ashkenazi Jewish kind of flavor of origins, but has had various companies, media and academic book stuff.
Like 1.2% Ashkenazi Jewish in my DNA.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, somehow or another.
A lot of us probably do.
Somewhere back there.
I do. My family origins say, oh, we're German. I grew up thinking German. And I look into it, Ancestry.com, whatever. It's Western Russian Jewish.
Yeah.
Fled Germany into Austria, into Russia. I think my family never talked about it. I think my grandparents never even really knew. But it was fleeing Germany and Russia at the time, out of Ukraine to America. I think they were Jewish, honestly. But my family never talked about it. Anyway, or didn't know after a couple generations. Anyway, Robert Maxwell, deep stater, basically was able to do a lot of basically undercover negotiations amongst countries without being a politician or a representative, ambassador in any way. He's just a businessman.
Right.
And as a businessman, he can broker deals that were like ostensibly about, oh, we'll sell you books or do media connections and all that. By the way, moving a lot of money, providing technology, software, media, intelligence, information, extortion, blackmail, and sex.
Mm-hmm.
Robert Maxwell, his daughter Ghislaine Maxwell in prison right now.
Yeah.
Low security wherever. She's in Tennessee, I think.
I don't know.
Yeah, she's low security Tennessee prison. Anyway, she'll get out when she's 70 something, I guess. But she's appealing her case.
Yeah.
Ghislaine Maxwell. Epstein brought into the fold as, the guy, our buddy, our friend of all. They start dating, whatever. Anyway, to their own personal interests and benefits, but the operation being sex extortion, blackmail on every single person of power they could get their hands on.
Yeah, it's not hard to do.
If you've got cute girls and sex and parties and you start out with, hey, let's talk about business, science, cool stuff, party, ooh, girls.
Yeah. And
then you got that little window into anything you want.
Yeah.
But, oh, hey, we got video of you. If you go off track here,
you're fucked.
Hey, we got video of you.
Yeah.
Oh shit. You're gonna do what they say.
Mm-hmm.
I shouldn't even name names, we'll get banned. But I mean,
the BC, the BNHC.
I don't know.
Right. I mean, like here's the funny thing about it is our society has decided that we're going to play by prison rules for men that have sex with high school girls, right? And people feel very justified in running with prison rules, like they should be shot and killed and blah, 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 blah. And I look at that and go, well, it's a historical anomaly. Regardless if you agree with it or not, I'm not saying it's a thing you should be doing. What I am saying is, historically speaking, it's not highly unusual for adult men to be marrying teenagers. Right?
We're getting into deep human psyche of power and control here.
Well, we're getting into deep human psyche of
reproduction stuff.
So it's not about power and control. It's about like, well, she looks fertile.
Well, it's now being used as that.
But now it is, because we are playing by prison rules for this kind of thing, where the punishment for engaging in that activity is fucking catastrophically bad for the person engaging in it. Like,
yeah.
You are going to get labeled all kinds of horrible shit. People are going to want to kill you. So it's super easy to lever somebody on that. Just go, hey, by the way, got some dirt on you. And the kind of dirt I got, people want to play prison rules by. So do you want to go down that path? Universally, they're going to say no. The worst part about it is these people in particular, I think, don't give a fuck. They're just like, yeah, you caught me with the... So what do you need?
It's about the getting caught. It's not the what happened.
No, it's not even that. They just go, hey, we caught you with this. You need to give us some information. And they're probably sitting there going, oh, you just want me to vote a certain way? Yeah. Well, can I keep doing the thing I've been doing this whole time? Yeah, sure, no problem. Cool. Yeah, I'll vote any way you want, man. Yeah. The only thing I care about is getting more of what I've had up to this point.
Yeah. And you're compromised, but you can...
But they're so compromised they don't even give a fuck. They're just like, I don't care. Yeah, I'm worried about getting caught, but I really just want to keep having my steady stream of underage prostitutes come my way. Is that possible? And they're just like, yeah, no problem, buddy. We can keep hooking you that up forever, but you got to keep voting our way. No problem. Happy to do it, man. I'm all aboard. Like, I don't think they're sitting there going, oh God, I can't believe I'm in this terrible situation.
I have this moral conflict about what, like,
that was a mistake, and I never should have allowed myself that. They're just like, can I keep partying? Yeah, cool. Do whatever you want. I don't care.
Yeah.
Can I keep being wealthy? Yeah. Can I keep partying? Yeah. Yeah. Then I'll do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's how deeply morally compromised these people are before they got blackmailed.
Yep, certainly. Robert Maxwell. No, he's dead now. He was effectively.
So we can say anything we fucking want about that guy.
Well,
can't get libeled for a dead guy.
I don't know. Assassinated by certainly Mossad or Israeli intelligence. Drowned off. Fell off the boat. It was a boating accident.
Sometimes people fall off boats.
Sometimes people just get drunk and fall off boats, right?
This shit happens. So
it happens. Yeah. Well,
just because someone died doesn't necessarily mean it was fucking some super intelligence agency. Sometimes people just do dumb shit.
Yeah. Occam's razor, people fall off boats. He ran and he got a seat at the House of Commons in London at one point and was quite prominent. But financial reasons, he got into some dire straits just personally. He was spending a lot of money and levering himself personally. The year he died, he went to the Israeli prime minister and just basically pleaded, like, I need help. I've done so much for Israel. I have made Israel. I talk about, you think of the Iran-Contra arms shuffling. He did that for Israel, out of America and out of Europe and all this stuff. He got Israel arms.
Right.
I mean, pure Zionist for his own reasons. He brokered a lot of arms deals and intelligence deals and power structures that made Israel a lot of what it is today. He went to the prime minister and others saying, hey, bail me out. I am in trouble. And they were looking at him now and at his age and sort of, less useful at that time. And they just said, no, we're not going to. So he was like, I've got goods on you. I could go public with this. Well, like a month later, he falls off the boat.
People fall off boats.
And so,
lucky for everybody involved, this guy just fell off the boat.
Had a little too many cups of Maxwell House coffee. Fell off the boat.
Oops. People fall off boats.
So the Epstein thing, in my head, I knew things about Epstein and where it was coming from, and that it was an operation. When I listened to that podcast, it hit me about how long and deep, at least, the sex stuff had been worked.
Do you know why Trump's waffling on that? Because he's on the fucking list, man. I mean, like all these, there's not a single person that's a power broker that hasn't had some interaction with that guy. So they're all fucked. Like, they're all just
possible.
like drowned together. I mean, they're not.
I don't know that Trump is compromised in that way, but there's pictures of him and Epstein. He had Epstein at Mar-a-Lago, whatever. I don't know, whatever. But
he's on the record saying, "Oh, that guy likes him young." Like, I mean, the likelihood that Trump isn't tangled up in some nonsense with that is, I think, close to zero. But what do I know? I mean, maybe, on that one moral thing, Trump somehow towed the line in the middle of the coke-fueled fucking 80s. I don't think so. But, I don't know.
They may have some on him.
They've got stuff on everybody, man. Like, it's just blackmail for everybody. So, but our entire power structure is compromised by that.
It's a blackmail-tocracy, in a sense, I would say.
Yeah.
Like, you don't get promoted unless they got something on you, perhaps. I don't know.
Probably. I don't know. I mean, we're not privy to those power structures, and we don't really know what's going on behind the scenes. So it's all sort of naked speculation by really poor cyber sleuths. And I wish I could remember the guy who was on the Chris Williamson show, because he said, there's like a good conspiracy theorist, which is someone that theorizes about where a conspiracy originates and where it's headed. And then there are bad conspiracy theorists who do things like they go, Tower 7 fell down at gravity free fall speed, must be fucking lizard people. It's fucking lizard people. And well, there's probably more to it than that, right?
And if you find that middle ground of, okay, it could be somewhere in between, that's certainly bad.
Well, potentially. I mean, the thing is there is still, it was sort of shocking to hear the physicist talking about Tower 7, because I was like, did you read the fucking engineering report? Because it's not unclear, like, how that building fell down, if you read the engineering report. I find very few people have, and yet people will run with, it was fucking controlled demolition, it was this, it was that. This guy points out, he just says, hey, it's just kind of weird that no other structure has fallen down like that under those conditions. I say, well, under those conditions, there was massive structural damage to that building. So
Building 7?
yeah.
No.
Have you read the engineering report?
No, but I never will. So you have a steel framed structure, and steel melts at like 24,000 degrees.
It's not about melting, dude. There's fucking debris that fell down from the other two towers. It ripped a great big gaping fucking hole in the middle of the building that you couldn't see on camera. So that's what caused the structural collapse of that building.
A controlled demolition, just boom.
That's not
the whole building drops. No.
Well, again, if you're just going to if you're going to be a shitty conspiracy theorist and just go, oh, it's a fucking controlled demolition, I go, well, go read the engineering report and then come up with a better theory, because that theory doesn't stick.
So there were fires in the building. I can just imagine that building burning up and down, gutted, and that steel frame is going to sit there because it didn't have
not if the steel
cutting, thermal charges on every core column.
Take a layer, take a layer, take a layer, take a layer, then cut right down the middle. And how does that building fall down? And then watch that video, because what happens is it goes buckle, boom, and falls in. That's exactly what happens.
From fires?
Again, if you read the engineering report, it's super frustrating for me when I hear people say this shit, because I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? If you read the engineering report, they said what you cannot see from the camera is there was massive structural damage done to that building from falling debris that was not on camera. So it wasn't just fires burning that melted the steel and made the whole thing fall down. They have drawings. They have engineers' drawings that say these were the structural supports that were severed because of damage from the falling buildings, not from the fire.
The two towers collapse, and the debris that hit Building 7 severed all the structural columns. I don't know. It's just hard. I mean, I don't know the engineering report, but I don't believe it.
Until you've read the engineering report, whatever you think about it is completely irrelevant as far as I'm concerned. It's like a pointless exercise to just, because you saw a video of something happen, you go, I know what happened there. Well, no, you don't.
So I would believe that most any skyscraper could just get a fire and then collapse.
What I would say is, but that's the point. Like I've already said 3 times right now, there's nothing about fires in there. They're talking about massive structural damage.
Steel columns got severed.
They're talking
from debris.
Building 7, they're saying that debris damaged that building. That's why it collapsed.
It's incredible. I don't know.
Well, read the engineering report. If you still have questions after the engineering report, then I'll be happy to have a discussion about it. And go, yeah, well, those might be good points. There might be other things at foot. I'm not saying what happened is just, what I'm saying is there is a very plausible explanation, far more plausible than a bunch of people got together and just decided to nuke Building 7 on that day as a delayed reaction to yada, yada, yada. I go, well, if they're going to bring the building down, why do it hours later?
That is a question.
The point being is, until you read the engineering report, until you have at least some scientific basis for forming an opinion, because right now you're forming an opinion based on internet bullshit and fucking personal observations and anecdotes and a fucking 3-second video you saw that's grainy as shit. You go, I know what happened based on those 3 things. I go, you don't know shit.
Is there a possibility that if 9/11 was somewhat of an inside job and they wanted some buildings to drop, that they could drop a building and say, well, I mean, gosh, there was a lot of debris and we'll write the engineering report?
It's irrelevant whether or not they could do that. That's not the point of what I'm bringing up here. What I'm saying is, if you are suggesting somehow that the hundreds of engineers that went and investigated those collapses all collectively signed on to this thing, not a single one of them whistle blew anything about some sort of untoward shit, and then you say that's the conspiracy I'm putting forth, I go, that's a pretty tricky conspiracy. If you're talking about deep state operatives that are brought up within the CIA or the State Department, because they hatch conspiracies all the time. It's constant. It's a never-ending stream of conspiracies. Iran-Contra was a conspiracy. The whole invasion of Iraq, conspiracy. There's no shortage of conspiracies that they have executed that we are aware of. Operation Northwoods and all this other shit. There's tons and tons and tons of legitimate, real-world conspiracies contemplated and carried out by people that are deeply enmeshed into the conspiratorial world. If you trace outside of that and you have just normies involved, you go, hey, all you normies, now you have to get on board, even though you don't have any training, access, exposure to, you're just normies and you operate in a normal world, just like the guy was talking about with Epstein going, Most people can't look at, they would go, who would do that? They can't fathom it. I would argue the same is true for the hundreds of engineers that contributed to those reports, to say at least one of those engineers is going to go, wait a minute, hold on just 1 second here, pump the brakes, fellas. This is wrong. To say none of those people did that, I go, you're just getting into the, is it possible? Yeah, sure, of course. It's possible to compromise hundreds of people. It's possible to go to every single one of them, go, we're going to kill you and all your family if you don't toe the line on this report, because we can't let anybody know that it was actually the Saudis, and we can't let anybody know that it was actually the CIA that funded the Saudis, and we can't let them. So, and
all you need is a whitewash report. Like, hey, we need a report here. Okay, here, Warren Commission, here's a whitewash. Hey, Popular Mechanics, here's a whitewash. Hey, we've got an engineering report on how Epstein committed suicide.
But there is no engineering report on how Epstein committed suicide. It's not an engineering report. There are things that you can verify in an engineering report. You can look at it and go, that math does not add up, or this does make sense, or here are some plausible reasons, or these are not plausible reasons. You can look at all of that shit. You can't do that with, well, these guys happen to be asleep, the cameras just happen to fail, and da-da-da. Like, that's all very easily things to spin. You can't spin engineering. Because some engineer somewhere can look at it and go, that's all bullshit. And then they can call it out for being bullshit.
Yeah. I could read the report, and I wouldn't know better to say that it was right or wrong, I suppose. I just feel like, okay, I'll take your word for it.
Here's the thing is, right now you're taking you're taking amateur words for a conspiracy theory that I don't think has a lot of merit, especially around Building 7. But if after you read the engineering report, you look at it and go, this all sounds like bullshit and I can prove it, and I go, okay, great, I'm all ears. I'm more than happy to listen to some explanations about how the engineering report is wrong. But to just say, well, I don't care what the engineering report says, I'm not going to read it. And I go, well, then what are we talking about? We're talking about nothing. We may as well just talk about fucking unicorns did. And yeah, it was a great big unicorn fart. That's what made that building come down, and that's what we're talking about.
Well, for me, a lot of these topics are all, the barrier to approval or disapproval of all this stuff is so high and steep, you're not going to pierce any of it. So just take the narrative word for it. Well, and I don't say, well, because they're engineers, then it's all solid.
Nobody said that. What I'm asking is, have you read the engineering report? The answer is no. Every single person I've talked to or heard say anything about Building 7, I asked them, have you read the engineering report? No. Well, what the fuck are you talking about, dude?
Well, I haven't read the Warren Commission report either, but I also know that's a kind of a whitewash.
How? Did you read it? No. Then you don't know.
You could just say that, like, well, have you, did you read the entire bill? No, but I voted for it or against it.
Right.
Oh, okay, so you don't know anything.
You don't.
Well, but you know why you're making effects and outcomes that work anyway.
No, you don't. Just like when I had my class come in and go, hey, are you going to go protest the Supreme Court decision in California about gay marriage? I said, no. Well, why not? Are you against gay marriage? No, neither is the California Supreme Court. Yes, they are. They just said it's blah, 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 blah. Go read the fucking Supreme Court decision. Not one of them did. Not one of them cares to, because they don't care about the nuance. They don't care about thinking beyond a very simple narrative that goes, it's this, that's the only thing I'm going to think. I'm not going to think anything else. I go, well, then you're stuck in that line of thinking. You'll always be stuck in that line of thinking. If you cannot break free from that, then the entire notion of independent thought is just cast out the window. You're just subject to a different influence than the mainstream influence, but you're still being influenced.
Well, my knowledge on Epstein, I'm sticking to the 5-hour podcast I listen to, and I'm not going to read the Israeli intelligence report about Epstein. Sorry.
Well, I don't know if there is an Israeli.
If they had written one, that would be the perfect cover.
Well, why wouldn't you? Because if you can't steel man an argument, you don't have an argument.
True. If you can't argue the other side, then maybe you don't really have a good argument yourself.
You certainly don't.
Yeah. So I don't have any opinions, apparently.
Well, you can have opinions all you want. I'm just suggesting, like, if you have strongly held or deeply held convictions about an idea, I go, well, you should test that idea, is what my point is. Not just go, well.
Well, I'm not going to, protect the establishment or attack the establishment, other than, basically what I'm saying is I learn what I can learn within my capability, and I formulate opinions, and then we bullshit about it. But I don't get really protective or defensive about this is what it is, although look at what's happening, folks. it seems to fit a mold that is pretty consistent, and it protects power structures and promotes war, and yeah, I don't know.
All those things can be true, and people can be very, very wrong about things.
True.
The guy's point was, if you look one layer deep, and he used the example of a movie, Victor, Victoria, I can't remember. Anyway, it was about a woman that was playing a man who was played by a woman or something like that. So people would look at the first layer down and go, oh, that's, but they could never see past the first layer. They couldn't see the actual thing that was going on behind the scenes, which was a woman playing a man that was playing a woman, right? And so that's effectively what people do when they stop talking about, like, the engineering report. They see the first layer down and they go, that's as far as I'm going to look. I'm not going to look any further. They never really get to the truth of a thing. And that, it just adds noise to the conversation. It does not help you get anywhere. It doesn't help anybody. It doesn't help the conversation move forward. And if someone can just come, someone like me can just come and attack your idea that easily and just go, well, it's fucking nonsense, then that idea, what you end up doing is just spinning a narrative for the people that are susceptible to that narrative. But none of those people will ever see a layer deeper and go, oh, maybe there was something here. Maybe there is something deeper. Maybe we should look a little further. Oh, maybe here's some other angles about how this could have occurred that was nefarious and that could undermine the entirety of the engineering report, or could undermine, because if you're going to undo a state narrative and you're just relying on surface information, how are you ever going to unpack a state narrative?
Yeah, well, then I will never question it. I saw a picture of a steel column.
That's a very unusual reaction. I don't understand what that means.
Well, there's no approach that I have then, unless I'm an engineer and willing to commit a career to deciphering an engineering report, then...
Well, but that's my point, is right now you're coming at this from an angle that says, like, unless I commit to being an engineer, I go, well, it's not written necessarily, it's not some technical manual that says XYZ. It's a narrative that was presented for congressional lawmakers. So it's not written for engineers. It's written for ostensibly lay people to understand the engineering dynamics behind what happened and why it occurred. So to discount that information based on, it's confusing to me to hear that, to go, why would you go from, well, I guess I just don't have any opinions.
Well, the engineering report to me is a conspiracy theory. It's a conspiracy that, no, we did not do anything here. It's just a bald-faced lie.
How can you
engineering lies?
How can you know that without having read the document? How can you make that opinion?
It wouldn't matter if I read it or not. I would just, it's sort of like, hey, we wrote the Warren Commission. It's done.
The Warren Commission and the engineering report are not the same thing. That's conflating two dynamically different things.
I conflate it the same as like the 50 FBI guys who signed off on a thing about a laptop, or the COVID medical researchers that said, no, 6 feet is appropriate. No, we wrote a document. 6 feet in masks that's science. Don't question the science. Same thing to me.
Well, how is my point?
Science, engineering.
Well, until
we wrote a report about it. 6 feet.
Until you've read it, you're quite literally making opinions about something you know nothing about.
That's all I do. That's the best I can do for this podcast here, is not reading engineering reports, but listening and deciphering as best I can, and then trying to decipher what I think about it. As I watch the fires burn things down, it's like, what's going on here? I don't know. You're really hung up on this engineering report, which seems to be this like blessed thing.
Well, I mean, that's I honestly cannot tell where that idea comes from, because what I have not said, the engineering report is the final say on World Trade Center Building 7. No other explanation can explain this. Like, none of those words have come out of my mouth. The only question I ask is, have you read it? The answer is no. And then there's expressions of opinion, very strong opinions about a thing that you don't know anything about.
I'm open to questioning. I'm not saying, no, I know it was this or that. It's just like, okay, so there's an engineering report about stuff. I've seen a lot of reports by things that say, no, this is how it is. No, stop wondering why the hell things are the way they are.
Well, I'll give you an example. Do you remember the Branch Davidians?
Yeah.
What's your opinion of the Branch Davidians? Do you have one? I have a very strong opinion about the Branch Davidians.
I think there's a lot of creepy cult fuckery, and I have opinions about religion in that regard. I also think that when it was decided that needed to get popped, it just was rules of engagement, war, whatever it took to pop that, and they did not wish for media to be paying attention to it as closely as they did. And they assassinated a lot of like women and children trying to escape a fire.
Right. I agree with you for the most part. What I think happened there, to stretch it out a little bit, is that the ATF went in to do some big splashy media raid, and then they got fucked over because they did it very clumsily and stupidly because they were trying to do a television show. They weren't trying to do an actual effective raid. They weren't trying to accomplish anything other than to make a big splash on the media so they could get more budget and whatever. And then they got fucked because the way they carried it out was tactically unsound. And these people knew they were coming and then opened fire on them. And they went, oh, you guys aren't supposed to shoot back. And I go, yeah. And then they lost. So then Big Brother came in, the FBI said, hey, well, we're going to clean up this mess. And then when they saw the depth of the fuckery that was going on there, they went, none of these people can come out or we're going to get fucked. So they killed them, right? Now, that is what I thought and believed based on a documentary that I saw at the time, Waco, the Rules of Engagement. I went, oh, and it got me all bent out of shape. And then when the congressional report came out, and it was a ridiculously long document that covered the entirety of that whole thing, and I read that too. And it was clearly not the narrative that I was looking for. It was clearly not the thing that was going to give me that satisfaction of going like, see, they admitted it. They admitted they killed these people. We should hold them to account. And I read all the way through that document looking for what you could call irrefutable evidence. Is there's FLIR footage, that's forward-looking infrared, that shows very clear positions of gunfire originating from known FBI positions into the structure as right in the only place where they could have been coming out to escape fire.
Mm-hmm.
And you can leave aside all the rest of the documentary evidence. You can leave aside all the quotes and the congressional testimony and all that kind of stuff. You can just look at that and go, something not good happened here, right? So regardless of how they got there, you can start trying to unpack from, at the bare minimum, I have something that you could call irrefutable evidence. And right at the tail end of that congressional report, regarding the FLIR footage, they disregarded that with 2 sentences. We have determined those are flashes of light. It's impossible. Mm-hmm. So the official narrative that came out has an impossibility baked into it, written into it, that I can point to right now as a conspiracy theorist and go, whatever official narrative they came up with is fundamentally false because of this one piece of information. So there's a hole in their narrative that I can point to and I can defend logically, rationally, reasonably against anybody that tries to challenge whatever I'm saying about it. My suggestion holds true for Building 7 in the engineering report. If there is an official narrative that has holes in it, because it would have to, if it's explaining an event that could not have happened the way they're describing it, then you can say, hey, I have a rational basis for my beliefs. The engineering report said this. This engineer said that can't happen because of these reasons. This engineer said this can't happen because of these reasons. This person said this person said this. These people support this idea, these people do not support this idea. Somewhere in the middle of this, I can come up with and go, hey, there's some fuckery going on here because of these inconsistencies. To just wipe it all aside, if I just go, I don't care what those congressmen say, they're just covering it up, it doesn't matter what they're going to say. Well, then you don't have an argument. You cannot support a position. I could not support my position.
So for buildings 1, 2, and 7, it could be evidence being pictures and video of vertical 2-foot, 3-foot thick steel vertical columns with angular cuts of molten steel from thermite that were cut through these columns. And they're like, no, it was debris. It's like, what cuts that kind of a steel column? And there's demolition companies that will use angular thermite steel melting charges.
Well, I would argue whether or not that showed up in buildings 1 and 2, I don't know. What I can say is the engineering report is pretty clear on building 7. What sort of fuckery they might have introduced into the engineering reports on building 1 and 2, because I've heard those same arguments, hey, these are clearly thermite cuts and this and that and the other thing. Whether or not you put any rationality into that discussion, until you've read the discussion, it's impossible to poke any holes in that theory. It's impossible to poke any holes in the narrative if you haven't, at the bare minimum, just looked at the damn report, because it's not dense. It's like 163 pages or something. So it's not like you could devote an afternoon to it and know more about World Trade Center 1, 2, and 7 than 99.99% of the people on the planet who have very strong opinions about what happened that day. And you could have an informed opinion, and then you can start formulating even deeper opinions about it based on that. I've never bothered to look past the engineering report because I read it and I went, well, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. What led up to it? No fucking idea. People have come up with all sorts of conspiracy theories about what led up to the event that brought those buildings down. To speculate about further things without having at least read the official narrative is a difficult road. It's a pointless road, I think, because you are just vulnerable to being shot down by very reasonable people. The adults in the room will look at you and go, you're just silly, and walk off. You're ignored. If you have a valid point, and then they are poo-pooing you, then you have something you can dig your feet into, you can dig your heels into, and you can start going, hey, wait a minute, there's more to this. And then you have a discussion. You have something worth talking about.
Well, I don't have any real grounds against the engineering report. I see what came of letting no good emergency go to waste.
Yeah, clearly.
So it was taken advantage of. So thank God it happened. If only we had had a new Pearl Harbor to initiate the New World Order. Oh, wait, we did. Well, moving on. We got central banks set up in Iraq and Libya, and, pawn by pawn, we're getting involved in global affairs, I suppose. So,
well, we have been since World War II. That's nothing new.
Mm-hmm.
But whatever catalyst that 9/11 provided, like obviously I've written extensively about how they use that to pass financial privacy busting laws. So very clearly they capitalized on the event. But to extrapolate out from that to say Donald Rumsfeld planned 9/11, there's a bigger barrier to get across for that. The powers that be capitalized on 9/11, 100%. It's unmistakable what they did. Did they create it? If you can cast aspersions and doubt on all kinds of things, but like I think it's well documented what happened with JFK. It's so well documented that President Trump said, I'm not going to release that because it's too damning. I think it's pretty clear what's happened with Epstein because you can just look at the reaction to it. It's the anti-information that you can see and you go, oh, yeah. Like everyone in the world, every media organization should be picking that apart left, right, and center.
Oh, it should be such a big story. You'd think they love that shit. Man, what a story.
Yeah, salacious as shit.
Oh, totally.
And it's universally ignored.
Mm-hmm.
People just shuffle along.
Mm-hmm.
9/11 was not that event. Like there was no shuffling aside. Nobody forgot about it a week later. Nobody went, oh yeah, what was a building came down? I don't know. I mean, it was a fundamental change in the American fabric of life. It was not ignored. It was deeply investigated. It was deeply
levered.
Like, I mean, I would encourage people to read the 9/11 Commission report too, because it's not exactly the official narrative that you'd see on the media or in documentaries about it. It dives into some pretty dark and narrow corridors. I don't think it peels back every fucking layer, but my broad point being is like, I think it's dangerous and counterproductive to just parrot narratives.
So RFK Jr. is criticized sometimes for getting conspiratorial or saying things about his uncle or his dad or vaccines and stuff. I mean, would you say he conflates things conspiratorially too much?
Absolutely not. I would distinguish him above all of those people that parrot those same narratives based on flimsy evidence, and I would point just to his research and his publications. Because he has deeply researched, deeply, like it's all right there. You can go read his books. And you can judge for yourself. Is this well researched or is this based on anecdotal bullshit that they compiled over the years from anecdotal sources? No. So not only that, he had a front row seat. That was his dad, was one of the people who got assassinated. It's not like, me walking down the street coming up with, I got a new theory about JFK. It's not Oliver Stone coming up with a theory about what happened to JFK. It's not. It's someone who is deeply embroiled and enmeshed in that power apparatus, has seen firsthand what it does. Uncle and dad, both not trivial players in the power hierarchy, but at the pinnacle of it, and then having done enormous amounts of research to support his positions. Like if you read his book about the V word, it's not lightly sourced. Like each one of his chapters probably has hundreds of pages of bibliographic references behind it. Versus some guy that runs a YouTube channel who goes, oh, building 7, vaccines cause autism, whatever. It's like, well, where's your research behind that? Zero. It's a fucking goose egg. It's just some anecdotal bullshit that they're parroting. So, yes, I would very much distinguish RFK Jr. from that cadre of people, because when he says something, it's not from a place of, I'm just not going to look at the official narrative and ignore it. He's coming at it from, this is the official narrative. Here's all the fucking holes in it. Here's all the reasons why I think there's holes in it. You can go look for yourself and determine for yourself based on the information I have. You can falsify my evidence all you want, but here it is in detail. But if I go talk to the, Alex Jones and go, hey, let me falsify your argument, I don't have to listen to that shit. That's just all the same bullshit they always say. Well, Alex Jones, and you're a pointless human being. I get that you get a lot of attention for what you're saying, but if you don't have evidence to back your shit up, if you don't have a steel man against your arguments, then it's pointless to talk to you, because you're just being a flutterbug, a mouthpiece.
All right, we've established that. I feel like debris and fires collapsed a 20-story steel building. I also like.
Did you hear this? This is the thing I'm talking about. It's like,
I just don't have an argument. I can't compete with an engineering report. I mean, I have opinions about a lot of things, and there's a lot of engineering reports written about some of these things, and I haven't been able to read them all. So if you want to hold up an engineering report, my arguments do have to back off. I'm not saying like, oh, I know what happened. But when I look at something like Epstein or the C word or many other the current things, I do my best. But every once in a while, if there's an engineering report, then I honestly I can't argue that. I'm not going to push and say no, you're wrong, I'm right. I do like discussing it though. So
yeah, I enjoy having the discussion. I am doing my level best in my life right now to get people to think beyond simplicity, I guess, is what I'm getting at. And tackling complex problems with simple solutions is a road to hell, 100%.
And I don't consider myself too much of like just a reductionist that I need to be able to, in a simple way, understand like, well, what does make sense? Well, then that must be all of it. I'm just always thinking outside the box, I suppose, and about like, what is going on here? What in the hell is going on here? You know? So then you're connecting the dots. Some of them are bullshit. Others are like, oh no, that makes it make sense.
Right.
Sometimes it's lizard people conspiracy. Like, well, what makes sense here? Well, UFOs and lizard people would make it make sense. Well, then it must be that, right?
Right.
Other times it's like, well, it could be like in power structures and compromise and black male-tocracy that we have going on that would make sense. Yeah, that also makes sense. So where you navigate reality is not straightforward.
Yeah, it's super fucking hard, man. And the beauty of it, the prize at the end of that road is nothing. Like you gain nothing by going, well, I'm thinking about this on a deeper level. You go, oh, what's that mean? I don't really know what happened. I have to waffle on every answer I give.
Sure.
And nobody likes waffling answers. Oh, you're not answering. Define a woman. You go, that's a trap. You go, because you can't. There is no way to. Okay, what's a woman?
X chromosomes. How about?
Right. Well, that doesn't necessarily define a woman, right? And you can sort of trace that out and get into the ontological reality of what a word means and how we arrive at meanings and how that symbolizes all sorts of things. And you can point to some things and go woman, and you can point to other things and go woman and feminine and this and that and the other thing. It's all an exercise in fucking nonsense. I mean, it's like freshman university philosophy student shit, right? You can just go down those rabbit holes. And at the end of it, you will find the unsettling reality of like, well, it's a lot more complicated to just say, define a woman. It's like, define a table. Go ahead, define a table.
Well, our video setup is sitting on one.
Right.
It works.
But that's like, what I'm saying, is that reference for that is a shortcut, right? It's a shortcut that's going to define 100 things. My Australian friend used to make fun of us Americans because we call everything a truck. You go, what's that thing with the trailer and the big cab in the front? Truck. What's that thing with a bed and a thing? Truck. What's that thing with a tow arm on the back? Truck. What's that box-looking thing that's delivering local good? Truck. He said, you guys just call everything a fucking truck. He said, you guys have 2 words. You go, how's your food? Good. How you feeling today? Good. So everything Americans say is like, good truck, good truck, good truck. And that was his making fun of us. But at the core of that is a very important point, which is the meaning of these things are very flexible because they are intended to provide a broad scope image that you can place into a context. And so you can put different things together to arrive at a contextual meaning for what that label means. But if you want to pin down to a precise definition of a word, what is a truck? You go, well, that gets tricky. It depends, is the answer you have to give always if you're going to be honest and have some integrity about the definition of a word. It depends. But that's true of just about anything you can come up with as a human being. What is the fundamental nature of reality? You go, it depends on what you're looking at, where you're starting from, what context you're talking about. There are no good, solid certitude answers, and people that start offering them provide a lot of comfort to people, but they're not addressing reality.
It's like, what's alternate theories about JFK? Conspiracy theory. Charles Manson, conspiracy theory. This and that and the other. MK Ultra, conspiracy theory, conspiracy theory, conspiracy theory. And they all mean different things. And then when you dive into them, it's like, well, they all have stories more than just conspiracy theory.
Right. There's a lot of narrative.
Yeah.
Certainly. But the honest answer to every question is it depends. And that's why people hate lawyers. That's why they hate academics. That's why they hate anybody that doesn't give you X plus 2 equals X, an answer. They'll say, oh, you never answer the question. Because there is no answer to that question. It's a setup. It's a loaded way to win an argument for the affections of the people that believe in the thing you're saying already.
So politicians sort of basically
lever that.
Yeah, they pick, okay, this narrative for this story, this narrative for that story, and they have to run with the more simple answers to things and leave it at that.
Because they will be accused of never answering a question.
Yeah.
So you can say the same thing about Kamala. Well, she never answers a question.
They're not saying anything lately. I mean,
because it's a fucking joke.
Dude. They're really avoiding the whole. I mean, I'll say crypto, but they don't want to say they're just straight up anti-crypto or anything anything anti-dollar. But they're just avoiding the whole issue because ultimately they're against it. Effectively, Bitcoin, they're against it, but they cannot go there right now. I don't even hear anything about it.
I don't know, man. I mean, like this whole political process is so, like, they've pulled the curtain back, and everyone's kind of seeing how this game is rigged, and I think at this point, if you put any stock in the guy whose name I can't remember, Weinstein something or another, he's sort of looking at it like, well, Trump kind of got in there and broke the models because he wasn't supposed to get nominated. But the RNC was so weak internally that they couldn't prevent that from happening. Like the DNC was much stronger in their internal controls that they could just bounce Bernie. They just go, nope, you're just not going, dude. Fuck you.
Mm-hmm.
And they made that happen. The RNC tried to do the same thing with Trump early on, if you remember. They're like, fuck this guy. He's not Republican. He's this, he's that. And never Trump, blah, 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 blah. And then all of a sudden he just steamrolled him. And they went, oh, fuck. So they sort of more savvy ones just got on board, and now they're just riding the Trump train. They go, well, I'm tying my fortune to that fucking wagon because being the next Mitt Romney is not a great outcome for me. Like, I don't want to be some irrelevant figure in the history of the Republican National Committee. But it's also destabilizing to the world order, quote unquote, and the people that have set the power structures in play that we're all sort of living under since World War II. So it's a very unusual time. And yet now we've got our, the corpse candidate that got replaced, and then the most hated candidate is now the chosen one that is hope and joy and all this fucking crazy shit. And they're just doing everything they can to manufacture consent for that process.
Yeah.
And so much so that, like, my brother-in-law and my sister go, well, what? I don't see a problem with that. They always pick people this way. I'm like, no, they don't. What are you talking about? Like, they're so bubbled up.
Yeah.
But, the right is no better. I mean, it's algorithm nation now. And
a couple of cults in a way, I suppose.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. And there are no paths forward from cultish thinking.
What do you think of RFK Jr. endorsing Trump?
He just fucking pulled a pin on a grenade and threw it right in the middle of the table, didn't he? So I don't know.
He could get appointed to something important if Trump gets elected, I guess. So, and Tulsi Gabbard, similarly.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are statesmen out there, and I think once they discover what the load-bearing walls really are, they probably won't upset the apple cart too much if they have any sense of survival. But that's just my 2 cents idea from the outside. No fucking idea. Just ultimately, I can look at the world writ large and go, well, I think this is a more complex machine than most people give it credit for.
Yeah.
So how they end up, what sort of power structures they create, what sort of forces they kowtow to, how much they're willing to upset that apple cart, I don't know.
Yeah, what I can see happening, well, I have my theories on the fix being in on the election, and that it'll seem really close and plausible deniability on the outcomes. It'll be like, well, we got Harris. Let's say Trump gets elected, and all this energy and angst behind, we want justice, have a tribunal here. Trump gets elected, and then I can see all the figureheads in place and all that, and then the issues really remain kind of, not to say they're just distractions, but they're the various public appeasing issues, and meanwhile, a system will chug along as it has, and in 4 years it remains.
Probably, is my guess. I don't know. I mean, they backed themselves into such a corner right now with their debasement scheme in 2020 that it's really anybody's game right now. That's why I wrote the book, is I look at it and go, this situation is unprecedented in human history. We've never crossed this precipice. We've never been confronted with these types of problems at this scale, with this level of technology and interconnectedness. Like, all of it is very, very, very novel and unique in the history of mankind. And all this novelty and uniqueness is occurring right as the existing power structure is starting to crumble under its own weight. The Jenga blocks are coming down all around us. And how one maintains that structure, maintains some sense of decorum and civility amongst human interaction, and preserves life above all else, like make sure that we have a sustainable humanity and people are fed and not starving and dying and rioting and killing each other and all that kind of stuff, I think is a very, very narrow path right now. So my hope is that, Bitcoin provides a widening of that path. Because if you just went and got a fixer home and you just said, you know what, I'm just going to open it up, make it an open floor plan, and you just start knocking walls down, and then the roof caves in on your head because you didn't realize the wall you're smashing is a load-bearing wall, then you're fucked, right? Like, it's not that you go, oh, well, we'll just have to repair the damage of this collapsed roof. You go, oh, my house is gone. There is no house. Everything is broken. Now I have to bulldoze the house and start over, which means not that you're going to have somewhere safe to live. It means that you're going to be sleeping in a fucking tent and hoping that your thing doesn't get flooded, and you're going to be getting eaten alive by bugs, and you're not going to have anywhere to cook your food. You're going to have to reimagine every aspect of your life. if you just go in and knock down load-bearing walls and then let the roof cave in on your head. So that is what I view the global economy like right now. If people just go in and start kicking down walls and going, well, we're going to go back to some fictional time in the past when none of this was going on. I go, there was no fictional time in the past that you can return to. There is no going backwards. You can only go forwards. And you either go forwards with the roof on your head or you go forwards with the roof over your head. And my hope is that Bitcoin lets people see, like, oh, actually, that's a load-bearing wall. Maybe we should knock that down.
Or you can't from the rules. Like you can't do that now.
Yeah, you can't knock down that load-bearing wall. It's dangerous to do that.
Yeah.
And now with Bitcoin, it's impossible. So
yeah. Part of the Great Reset, in a way, I see like, why not knock stuff down and make things bad? And the fix from the problem reaction solution of this Hegelian dialectic or whatever it is, it's like through chaos and collapse is the new solution. Bitcoin being the one solution. The alternative, in my mind, what word do you give it? I don't know. Communism.
you don't know what
not to make it oversimplify it all, but
we
I don't
know what comes from chaos and collapse. That's my point. Like you won't know until it's too late.
Yeah.
Like if you invite chaos into the world, the power structures that emerge from chaos are not necessarily going to be aligned in your favor. It's far more likely, if you look at history, that those forces will be absolutely aligned against you. And there are no shortage of examples. There's 5,000 years of human history that shows what emerges from chaos is tyrannical, almost universally.
That's what I see coming.
So my position is that we should avoid the things that bring about the type of chaos that allows tyranny to form. And we are courting it right now. So I do not appreciate or like or want to subscribe to the idea that we need to court chaos to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
I think what we need to do is find a way to preserve very necessary and valuable institutions and preserve the philosophical underpinnings of a lot of that stuff and make sure that we don't blow the fucking house up so we can have a new house.
So in the face of chaos and problems and issues, I feel like Bitcoin is that seawall against all of that.
I really hope so. I mean, none of it's written in stone, right? I think the fix is already working. It's just no one's seen it yet.
Yeah,
we'll see.
It's starting to work.
We'll see.
In various ways, it's working, and I think it will. You can't stop this train. Yes.
Did you really?
So I'm still working through it. You're almost done with your book.
Yeah, I've just got to finish the introduction and do the bibliography and lay it out for the paperback and then publish it on Nostr. I got some work to do, but it's all like busy work. It's not
clean up
work.
Fix up. Yeah.
Well, I've already gone through and cleaned up. I don't know if we'll see if anyone. I don't know. Maybe my book sucks.
It's good. It's a good book.
Oh, thank you.
It's. I mean, months ago, as I was reading chapters 1, 2, and into 3, chapters. I mean, parts. It enlightened me to whole new concepts around money and power and Bitcoin's role. And now I haven't on your part. Now, did you reorient the parts?
Yes.
Okay.
So I went the way it was originally structured. I started with the part on money, the section on money. And then as I wrote it, I realized, well, I should probably talk about power structures because that's where the money comes from. Like money doesn't just organically show up in the world. It shows up in response to power and the exercise and use of power. So I put power first. And then so I had to reword a couple little things here and there. There are some of the discussions around money that, like I've heard other podcasts and stuff, and I was like, I'm not really fleshing this idea out well enough. It was vulnerable to a lot of criticism. And it's vulnerable to criticism anyway, and I welcome it 100%. I go, please, tear it apart, do your worst. But I was just on the Bitcoin Way podcast guys thing, And, you know, I'm a big fan of the Bitcoin way just as a company. Like, I still haven't seen the result of the podcast.
Is that out yet?
I haven't seen it.
Oh, okay.
I haven't heard.
I want to see that.
Since then. That was a couple weeks ago, so I don't know. I don't know what the release schedule is like, and maybe it's just a shitty podcast. Like, I don't know. Like, maybe he was just like, oh, fuck this guy. I thought he was going to be interesting, man. This guy's a fucking moron, you know. But nevertheless, from that point on, like, just talking about that, one of the things he had asked about, I said, well, when I'm talking about the history of things, like, if you look at any historical narrative, you go back, Greeks, Romans, whatever, and they'll say things like, well, these two armies came and met on the field. And this was like the start of this big battle. You go, well, what was there before the armies? Because those armies didn't just show up one day and go, hey, we're an army now. We know how to fight like an army. Like, that had to come from something.
Yeah, they conscripted and motivated and trained and...
Well, but, I mean, how did you just get to the idea of, like, we need an army?
Survival, I can imagine. And then focused for, the kings.
But where did the idea of the kings come from? Where did all this stuff...
Sure.
And so what I ended up with is there's some really great research papers on the Hallstatt people that were sort of the precursors, like Bronze Age precursors to, like, the Germanic peoples and the people that were sort of populated middle to northern Europe, like above the Greeks and Romans. Like the people that the Greeks and Romans went and said, oh, the barbarians. And they were basically hunter-gatherers that had sort of migrated over throughout, populated the European continent, 50, 60,000 years ago, something like that. And then were essentially existing as hunter-gatherers right up until agriculture started spreading throughout the continent. And then as agriculture started forming, these are the groups that started coming up with ideas of like, hey, I don't have to grow things if I can just go beat the shit out of that guy and take the things he grew. That sounds like more fun. And that's where that I postulate the resource capture game starts from. But there's actual decent research that says, hey, you start seeing these power dynamics and these power hierarchies start forming around the Bronze Age with the Hallstatts. And that's where, by the time the Romans were up there talking to them, where they would have kings, like that barbarian king, the barbarian king that sacked Rome, came down from those groups. But the thing is, they said, yeah, this king came down and sacked Rome. Where'd that king come from, is my point.
All these Germanic tribes.
Somehow manifested and were somehow able to take on the Roman legion and sack a fucking city.
Yeah.
Like, that takes some level of coordination, some level of planning, and some level of organization before you can get to a place where you can mount that kind of offensive. So how did they get there is what I'm trying to get to. Like, when people talk about money, they go, well, money is just this and this, and it just started here, and they go, what was there before the money? And I don't think anyone's got a real clear picture of that, because there's not... People that go through history start with writing. When did the written word start showing up? That's where we're going to start history from. What happened before the written word? Well, we have to look at archaeology and we can find a dig site where there's some shit. But we don't really know what they were doing or how they lived or whatever. So there's a bit of theorizing to go, well, this is how other power structures have developed in competitive resource capture economies. So chances are good, probably this is where that came from as well, which is probably where money came from. And it's probably because of this. These are just slightly different ideas on the same concepts that you guys have been chewing on for hundreds of years. I'm just trying to give people a little slice. Just like I was doing earlier with the Building 7 stuff. There's another slice to this. Just don't stop here. Peel back the curtain and go, oh, there's a whole other thing. And then from there might be another curtain that you can peek behind and go, oh, fuck, there's actually more to this. And then and sooner or later you get to a nugget of truth. But if my nugget of truth follows my theorizing, that is the thing that informs my opinion about what Bitcoin does. That's why I have the opinions I do, where people are dooming and glooming and saying we need to do this and we need to do this. And I say, well, historically speaking, that's a terrible fucking idea. And historically speaking, this thing can fix a lot of those problems that no one else has been able to figure out yet. So we'll see if I get that across in my bookie poo.
Well, from everything I've read over the months, it has for me. It has opened up my mind and new models on thinking around that kind of stuff. And I'm super excited for when you're feeling like it is done and here it is.
Yeah.
And release it to the world.
I'm excited.
It's awesome. So
I'm gonna put it on Nostr. Say, here you go, people. Enjoy.
Yeah. And you'll have it largely on Medium for reading it, or
I don't know. I might
a big long PDF.
No, I think it's primarily going to be published on Amazon as a paperback for people that don't want to read Nostr. I might leave it on Medium or not. I don't know. I mean, it's just there, and it kind of doesn't matter. But I like it for the permanence and the sort of incorruptibility of it, because Medium could go out of business.
Sure.
Right? And I could just lose like access to my book on Medium. But if it's, and Amazon could technically go out of business, so I could potentially use my paperback. But if it's on Nostr, there's a...
You think you'll print it out and have a book?
Yeah, that's going to be on Amazon. That's going to be the Amazon version. It's paperback. And, you know, not everybody wants to read on a website, right? So I kind of go, well, okay. If you're willing to donate a little bit of money to my cause and you want a paperback, then here you go. It's available for you. But you certainly do not have to. If you want to read every single word I've ever written about this topic, you can just go to Nostr.
For free.
For free, yeah. You want to throw me some sats as a little
tip?
I'm wide open.
Zap some sats.
Want to zap me a tip? I'm all for it. But that's not what it's about. Ultimately, you know, I just want to share the idea and let it be available for public scrutiny and let people take it apart, or even show any interest at all would be pretty remarkable. Like, the overwhelming likelihood is there'll probably be about 100 people that might look at the book, and probably 20 or 30 of them will be people I know. You know? So, and that's just the nature of publishing. That's just kind of the way that shit works out, right? Like, it's just, you're in a sea of other people that are far more popular, have far more reach, and have far easier ideas about things, or more digestible. So whether I get any traction in that world is kind of up to the gods and Bitcoin Twitter.
It is a serious platform from which we're launching all of our Bitcoin future as best as we can escape the fiat worlds.
Yeah, as quickly as I can. God damn, I cannot get escape velocity going. It's a fucking...
Oh, I had so much to say and thinking about just fiat escape, but I'll leave it alone because it's no good comes from complaining. So, but anyway,
I spent a lot of time picking on Fritz today.
I'm good for it. I imagine myself as being open-minded and always learning, and then
this guy comes on, it's just a fucking asshole.
No, the banter and you can't just say, oh no, we know, and I don't want to stop thinking here. No, it's good for me. I keep thinking. So.
I appreciate you for it. Thank you.
It helps
me. Get very intolerant of me, and I don't blame them 100%. They're just like, fuck this guy is fucking thinking shit and fuck off.
I'm happy to challenge things, and if I'm corrected, I'll stand back and I reevaluate always. So it's good for me.
Ultimately, I don't have a point other than like, hey, it's more complicated than that. That's it, you know. So
life's complicated. For
it
sure.
really is.
We're working our
just
way
embrace
through.
the complexity.
The suck.
Just embrace it. So like suck. At the bottom of this fucking chain, when you've gone, I've sifted through all the complexity, and what have you come up with? Nothing. It's just life fucking sucks. It's miserable, and I just want to go and raise a farm and have some fat bitch churning butter for me. That's the
Dare to dream.
Of existence.
Dare to dream.
Give me some fat bitch churning butter, making babies.
Yeah, that's all I need. That's what I got.
A slab of beef in the fridge and just
got my beef and my butter.
Bring it.
Yeah,
I'm ready. All right, that was fun.
The Great Realignment coming soon in its final edition.
Hopefully in like 2 or 3 weeks.
2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, let's see how much work I do today. I got to go home and get that goddamn bibliography. It's a real pain in the ass. But thank God for ChatGPT, aside from its weird little making up shit. Yeah, here's a reference I'm just going to make.
Sounds good enough. Here you go.
Close enough.
Thank you.
Thanks. You just fucking made that up out of fucking thin blue air, you jackass.
You liar.
You lying robot. Anyway.
Awesome. All right. Well, thanks, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Good video.
Toodles.
Next time.